Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have, some evidence, historical and photographic evidence of a cryptid canine existing in a county in Georgia. Before we get into it, though, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel, continue to grow and go, just simply subscribe and click the like button. It's fast and free. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Alright guys, how are you today? So today I want to talk to you about a county in Georgia that actually is historically famous for a dogman or a quadruped canine cryptid called the wog. Now, a subscriber reached out to me just the other day and shared page 46 and 47 of this book, The Early History of Jackson County, Georgia, the writings of the late G.J.N. Wilson, embracing some of the early history of Jackson County, the first settlers of 1784, formation and boundaries to the present time, records of the Tallahassee colony and struggles. I'll share with you page 46 and 47 shortly. And really quick, I'd like to some people were like, hey, what happened to the interview? Because apparently some people went to comment back into the old comments and their comments weren't there. Well, I got hit with a copyright claim. Even though Paul gave me permission to use his song at the end, YouTube didn't know that I had permission, and therefore there's no way of me contacting them or Paul contacting them and saying, hey, Jeff's got permission. So they hit me with a claim. I put in for review, and that way when they do review it and they get the okay from Paul or whoever the rep is for Paul, I'll have that song back up. Also, I am freezing cold. I don't know what's going on. I go through bouts of just things with my illness to where I get really cold, and I get a cold really easy because I don't have an immune system. So that's why I'm wearing a vest inside, even though our place is 80 degrees inside and I am ice cold. And yes, I had an accident with my razor. So, but enough of that. Let's talk about Jackson County, Georgia, and how I was introduced to this community. Also, there will be pictures, recent pictures of an attack that was done on some cows out there. So let's get into this. So this is the message from the subscriber. About 2 years ago, a mile up the road, haven't really wanted to share, authorities said coyotes, but I don't think so. There were 3 killed, and 1 got carried off and drug away. I'd rather not be mentioned right now. I'm going to send you my address and some photos. You can look on Google Maps at the riverland behind my home. Supposedly some calves and a horse and people, say coy dog. I'm dealing with something now. It comes from the woods behind my house. Definitely something bipedal, walking, but can never really see it, even with a big spotlight. Now, I will show you the pictures while I share with you Jackson County. Just some information quick, and then we'll get on to the rest of it. It's quite terrifying that back in 1784, they knew about, you're a settler. You're coming from the old country, the mother country, and you land in America, and you're competing with Native Americans, with nature, and then with this monster. And you don't know what else to call it, but you call it the Wog. I don't know, wolf, dog. The description is terrifying. And the fact that it's in a book that is nonfiction is even more proof to me that these creatures are out there. And yeah, I know some people will say, oh, da-da-da, you're lying, this, and that. Well, you know, I know what I know, and I know what I feel. And I guess they know what they know, and they know what they feel. But I'm not going to fight the trolls anymore. I decided that. I'm super excited. Sean Atwood, really quick, sorry. Sean Atwood interview will be Sunday. I'm interviewing him on Saturday. He had an interview that he had forgotten about with Netflix. So I'm competing with Netflix. I cannot believe that. Like, are you kidding? Netflix over me? Come on, Sean. Just kidding. Anyway, let's get into the historic references about Jackson County. A brief history of Jackson County. Most of the first non-Native American settlers came from Effingham County in 1786. On February 11th, 1796, Jackson County was split off from a part of Franklin County, Georgia. The new county was named in honor of Revolutionary War Lieutenant Colonel, Congressman, Senator, and Governor James Jackson. The county originally covered an area of approximately 1,800 square miles, with Clarksboro as the first county seat. In 1801, the Georgia General Assembly granted 40,000 acres of land in Jackson County for a state college. Franklin College, now the University of Georgia, began classes at the same year, and the city of Athens was developed around the school. Also the same year, a new county was developed around the new college town, and Jackson lost territory to the new Clark. The county seat was moved to an old Indian village called Tamokogan, a location with ample water supply from Curry Creek and 4 large springs. In 1804, the city was renamed Jefferson after Thomas Jefferson. Jackson lost more territory in 1911 in the creation of Madison County, in 1818 in the creation of Walton, Gwinnett, and Hall counties. In 1858 in the creation of Banks County, and in 1914 in the creation of Barrow County. The first county courthouse, a log and wooden frame building with an attached jail, was built on the south side of the public square. A second, larger 2-story brick courthouse with a separate jailhouse was built in 1817. In 1880, a third was built on a hill north of the square. This courthouse was the oldest continuously operating courthouse in the United States until 2004, when the current courthouse was constructed constructed north of Jefferson. Geography. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the county has a total of 343 square miles, of which 340 square miles is land and 3.4 square miles is water. The vast majority of Jackson County is located in the upper Oconee River subbasin of the Altahama River Basin, with just a small portion of the county's northern edge between Maysville to just east of Commerce, located in the Broad River subbasin of the Savannah River Basin. Now I'm going to introduce you to the wog. The wog, sometimes called the Georgia wog, is a fearsome beast associated with Jackson County. Think of it as kind of a black demonic dog with the characteristics of other animals as well. G.J.N. Wilson described it based on the accounts of early settlers in his early history of Jackson County, Georgia. 1914, he writes, "The wog was said to be jet black, long-haired animal, about the size of a small horse, but his legs were much shorter, the front ones being some 12 inches longer than the hind ones. This gave him something of appearance of a huge dog sitting on its tail, and when walking seemed to require him to carry forward one side at a time. His tail was very large, all the way of the same size, and at the end of it there was a bunch of entirely white hair, at least 8 inches long and larger in diameter than the tail itself. Whether sitting, standing, or walking, this curious appendage was in constant motion from side to side, not as a dog wags its tail, but with a quick upward curve, which brought it down with a whizzing sound that could be distinctly heard, at least when 25 or 30 steps distant. But the most distinguishing feature of this horrid tail was that it revealed the presence of the monster in the dark. The only time he ventured to go abroad, his great red eyes were very repulsive, but not so much as his forked tongue, the prongs of which were thought to be 8 inches long and sometimes played in and out of his mouth like those of a mad snake. Really, the meanest feature about the beast was that his bear-like head contained a set of great white teeth, over which his ugly lips never closed." Now, at the end of that's from Uncanny Georgia. It does state 46 and 47 of the book. While the wolves, panthers, and bears gave the first white settlers of this part of the country much trouble, still another animal, whose existence has often been disputed, inspired those who profess to have seen him with more fear than all others combined. It was the wog, not woog, as it has sometimes been called. Many of the people who first lived at and for several miles around Old Jug Tavern from its first settlement to about 1809 claimed to have seen him at their homes. As the character of the people who first lived here will be shown as this narrative progresses, the reader will be at as much loss to know how he can afford to dispute their word as he is to believe what they have said. At any rate, the writer tells the story as it was told to him, but perhaps with a little more evidence than any reader has. The wog was said to be jet black, long-haired animal about the size of a small horse. The front legs were much shorter, but his legs were much shorter, the front legs being some 12 inches longer than the hind ones. This gave him something of an appearance of a huge dog sitting on its tail, and when walking seemed to require him to carry forward one side at a time. His tail was very large, all the way the same size, and at the end there was a bunch of entirely white hair, at least 8 inches long and larger in diameter than the tail itself. Whether sitting, standing, or walking, this curious appendage was in constant motion from side to side, not as a dog wags its tail, but with a quick upward curve which brought it down with a whizzing sound that could be distinctly heard, at least when 25 or 30 steps distant. But the most distinguishing feature of this horrid tale was that it revealed the presence of the monster in the dark. The only time he ventured to go abroad, his great red eyes were very repulsive, but not so much as his forked tongue, the prongs of which were thought to be 8 inches long and sometimes played in and out of its mouth like that of a mad snake. Really, the meanest feature about the beast was that his bear-like head contained a set of great white teeth, over which his ugly lips never closed. The Indians told the first white immigrants that so long as the wog was left undisturbed, he would not molest anyone, that he would sometimes visit their homes, go around them, if a light were inside, poke his tongue through any opening that he could find between the logs, and then go away. Pioneers were not only quick to learn this lesson, but also carefully followed the instructions. During the years formerly mentioned, the wog made several visits to houses in the territory to which reference has been made. Those inside the home, though, they had not seen the flirting of the white plume, knew of his presence by the whizzing sound, by the poke of his horrid tongue through the cracks in their wall, and notably by the mortal fear with which he inspired other creatures outside. Dogs and cats ran away from, in some instances were scared to death. Horses snorted, cattle moaned, and chickens flew from their roosts in all directions. Thus, having seemingly accomplished his only mission, to frighten everything out of the wits, he gave a loud snort and still twirled his white signal from side to side, went ambling away, and welcome was the going. The foregoing is, in substance, the description given by Alonzo Draper, who lived and died in the territory of the Wog, and also by Thomas C. Barron, who died near Apley Valley in the 40s of the last century. Let me repeat, I give the account of the Wog as it was given to me. It is hard to confess that one believes that there was such a thing, but one hates to say that he does not believe the word of these old citizens. The writer must leave the matter to you, dear reader. So what that pretty much says is, hey, guess what, guys? The people that believed in the Wog back then are getting treated like us now. We are told that the Dogman, that Bigfoot, that these canine cryptids, that all sorts of creatures that we have no idea where they came from or what they are, possibly because of the end of times, possibly they are Chimera, who knows, I don't. But I do know that that is factual evidence that in the past, some 300 years almost, they were ridiculed as well, just like we are. Interesting, huh? Interestingly enough, the Native Americans had the Creek had a word for where the Wog resided, called Nado Rock, which means gateway to hell. Interesting because if you think of how this creature looks, it really does resemble a hellhound, a black shuck. It could be a black dogman. In these words, I say it could be. I don't know what it is, nor did they. All they pretty much told us was this monster was some sort of demon canine that terrorized the locals, and still does to this day. Literally still does to this day, which is terrifying. This is an encounter I actually found with Draper. And it's very interesting. I'm going to share that with you. Encounter with a wog. It was a few hours in the night. The half moon hung low and barely gave enough to reveal the outlines of an object, just enough to make shadows that swayed back and forth in the passing breeze seem ghostly. As usual, there were sentinels in the timbered circle, for now the friendship of the natives was doubted. The white people, though few in number, managed to know almost everything that was carried on in the country. Looking for the 4 points of the compass stood the Draper family and Abe Trent, all heavily armed. Helen's position, facing to the east, at her feet, curled up nearly into a ball, was Lion, a huge Egyptian dog, as fierce and as powerful as a mad tiger. Suddenly the dog unrolled himself. "To who?" broke the reigning silence. It was Helen's signal to the other sentinels that something unusual was on hand. Lion's growl always meant something. The girl stood looking and listening. Lion was at her side, bristles erect and occasionally giving a low growl, lower than before. Like an apparition emerging from the ground, Abe Trent appeared on the other side. She realized she stood between two powerful friends. Just then her father and mother came near, and Mrs. Draper, pointing across the field, whispered, "Look." Lion increased his growls, and all plainly saw a wolf enter the field a short distance, look around, and then hastily retreat. Another and another did the same way until a dozen or more appeared and looked across the field as if in doubt as to what they should do. While thus looking, they suddenly scampered away and disappeared in the woods. While wondering at the unusual actions of the wolves, a dark object that appeared to be carrying a white flag emerged from the woods and stopped at the outer rim of the field. It was then seen that the white flag was waved from side to side like one motioning to another to get out of the way. This continued for several moments, when at last a dark object moved forward, still flourishing its white banner. When little more than half across the field, a whizzing sound was heard as the flag went back and forth like a boy cracking his hickory-barked whip. Even Lion became uneasy and turned his growls into low whines. This was significant to all. While seeing that their guns were in order, Mr. Draper hurriedly whispered, "The good Lord, it's the infernal wog." As bad as Lion had seemed to be scared, his courage returned, and it required all of the family's efforts to keep him from meeting the still advancing monster. Mr. Draper's rifle carried an ounce ball, and though he had heard that it was the best to let the creature alone, and that its hide was impervious to a bullet, he felt sure in the light of past experiences that he could, to his own words, send a leaden messenger clean through any part of its body, or plug one of its fiery eyes out either. He was, however, persuaded to wait for further developments, and the party retired to the home, barred the doors, and stood by their guns, axes, and knives, awaiting the gauge of battle if need be. The near approach of the animal was plainly indicated by the whiz of its tail, and when he reached the door he made a noise similar to a long-continued hissing of a goose. Having done this several times, he began his serenade around the house, and finding a small opening between the logs, he poked his forked tongue through, as if trying to impale someone between his slimly prongs. Lion saw this and rushed to grab the tongue, but Mr. Draper succeeded in stopping him just in the nick of time. Having thus twice gone around the house, he gave a short shout similar to one he made by the wild hog in the woods, and going west slowly disappeared. A while after the animal left, a light tap was heard on the door. It was Murrah, who said that her father had seen the wog going away, and that she had come to see if her friends were safe, and offer such assistance as she may be able to give. When asked why she was not afraid to be out such time, the noble girl modestly replied that she should outrun anything that carried along one side at a time. Though evidently willing to return alone, Abe Trent would not allow her to do so, and, shouldering his rifle, he accompanied her home, with as much pleasure, he said, as I ever felt in my life. It appeared that the Draper family was only one visited by the monster at Snowdon, and that after leaving there he was not heard of until he reached a small settlement of wigwams that stood on the plain now covered by the fine oak grove east of the residence of Reverend H.N. Rainey at Mulberry. There lived Silkwat, a head man among the Creek and a sort of politician. He was one of the signers of the treaty made at the Shoulder Bone in 1786, and a man of some consequence. When the unscrupulous Wog reached his wigwam, there were 2 Lower Creek dignitaries present, perhaps on official business, and as he began to blow and hiss like a monster goose, they ran to the woods as only scared Indians can run, leaving their host to his fate. But Silkwat found safety in the top of a tall tree where the beast, having hooves instead of claws, could not foul him. Now we'll move to present day. On May 1st, 2010, Cooper called the sheriff's office to report that he had found 5 of his cows killed and mutilated. These 5 cows were killed in the same area where several other cows had been killed. Apparently, Cooper didn't report all of the cows that were killed. 4 days after the investigation was closed, Cooper called again. Another cow had been found dead near the creek. Cooper took the cow's body to the University of Georgia for a necropsy. The results were never made available to the sheriff's office. Kay Cooper did several interviews with the media. She gave details that were not included in the sheriff's reports. She told the media that there was no blood anywhere. The udders and genitals were removed with surgical precision. No further law enforcement investigations were done. Jackson County, Georgia, where several cows were found and mutilated, law enforcement were completely puzzled. There was no evidence of what caused their death. The only discernible evidence was that there was a clean cut around the rectal area. The first cows were found in December 16th of 2009, said rancher Harold Edge. The University of Georgia determined that the cows were not diseased. When the second was found in January 6th, Edge ruled out any kind of animal attack. There were no marks on the body or blood around the dead animal. The only mark on the cow was around the rear end. In Walker County, several cows were killed and mutilated. In the late hours of February 2017, the Walker County Sheriff's Office was looking for unidentified persons. The animal's death occurred in the area of Kingston Road and Highway 193, near Walker County Fire Station Number 9. There was no report found that said how the animals died or how they were mutilated. There are a number of theories bouncing around about the cattle mutilations. These include, but are not limited to, predators, coyote, vultures, rituals, devil worshippers, satanic cults, black helicopters with no insignia or any identifying numbers, and a large van-like truck with government plates had been seen around the area of some of the mutilations. The subject of the secret government experiments has been brought up. Of course, there's a UFO theory, which is the most popular. Strange lights and unidentified crafts have been seen in the vicinity of many animal mutilations. So this is the photographic evidence that the subscriber sent me of the cattle mutilations. that were just recent within the last 2 years. I believe it is in the same general vicinity as this very strange little animal mutilation case. But Jackson County has been having these cases for years. I mean, centuries, guys. What's going on? Police are searching for a pack of wild dog that killed animals on a school property. Jefferson police chief said he wants to round up the dogs before they attack a child. My concern is that if they're attacking goats, one may attack a kid, said Chief Joe Worthman. Right now, when they see human adults, they run, they bark, then they run away. But he said a small child may be different. The incident happened Thursday afternoon at a fenced-in retention pond behind Jefferson Academy. The goats were kept on school property, where they grazed to keep vegetation from becoming overgrown. Students, including Riley Carr and Katie Martin, were kept inside and urged not to walk to school as police searched nearby woods. The girls told Channel 2 Carl Willis they were among the first to see the mauled goats. When you looked at them, they looked like they were lying down, Carr said. Our teachers said they were probably sleeping because they weren't moving. Worthman said his entire force, including admin staff, were searching in between service calls. They worked a 6-block radius with animal control and took four-wheelers into the woods. We spotted them again off of 7:30 in the morning. By the time animal control could get the traps, they took off. Parent Bob Duggan said he also saw a pack of wild yellow dog and a black dog Friday morning. He was one of the many who decided to drive his children to school instead of letting them walk after receiving a text and email. We're going to follow their procedures and not risk our children to these dogs. Worthman said his officers and animal control will be working around the clock to get the dogs off the street. Whichever way we can get them, he said, I prefer not to have them put down. You guys can clearly see that these cows, or this cow, was not attacked by a dog, whether feral or not, a coy dog, a coyote, a wolf, a panther, whatever. Something very dangerous tore this cow apart, and it had no involvement with the U.S. Secret government. This was, I really hate saying Mother Nature, but I mean, they are breathing, bleeding creatures. I mean, so it is Mother Nature, but these things are savage. Blown away when I saw these pictures, and then I did some research into the town. It is truly terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. All right, so that is pretty much the history of Jackson County. If you really think about how the writer of this book Gustavus James Nash Wilson, GJN Wilson, if you think about how he described the people that believe in the log, he's pretty much describing us as a whole. I'm sorry about my throat and my eyes are burning. I absolutely feel like dog crap. He's describing us. Us. Not them, but present day us, back in 1914. And then the people in the 1780s were dealing with what we deal with now, except they didn't have aluminum foil to make the hats. It's honestly very... it's kind of enlightening if you think about it, because right now, right here, evidence in everything I just shared with you is historic cover-ups in the media. Except the media back then was around like the water well or whatever. It's insane to think that our founding fathers, or the founding fathers of Jackson County, were treated like we are on a daily basis. Sorry about that. I had to make sure that I had my mic on. I've done that like 3 or 4 times tonight. First and foremost, I think it's really amazing that this is historical evidence in my eyes, along with photographic proof that something is attacking the animals of Jackson County, Georgia. It's really strange. It's kind of, I don't know, enlightening, like I said before, that, I don't feel so bad that I'm, just that we are not on the outside, because all of us and the people that came before us that are interested in this field have always been on the outside. But are we on the outside, or are they on the outside? That's the thing that we need to figure out, really. Very, very terrifying. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. And I really hope that that things turn for a better tomorrow. I hope someday the government will recognize that we know, and really not shun us or make lies to the public to make us look like fools. Strange. But yeah, thank you everybody for all your support. Really means the world to me. And like I said, I apologize for yesterday. I wanted to have 2 videos up for you guys, but with everything that happened and how I feel, I just couldn't do it. I don't have a temperature, but I feel hot. It's just terrible. It is terrible. I know that some people are going to say, get some rest, don't worry about us. But I do worry about you guys, because you are my family in this. You guys are what makes this, and what makes me struggle, like just push forward and struggle to find the information, and really just want to just fight the norm and cross those lines. And you guys cross them with me every day when you're here. So every once in a while I get like a message saying, hey, what's wrong with you? What's your illness? Just Google PNH, and that will lead you to what I have. Hey, buddy. But I'm not going to let it get the better of me. You guys in this channel is honestly what keeps me going. If I didn't have this channel and you guys, I probably wouldn't just, I got my daughters, but, it's just, my daughters and this channel and you guys are what I live for. So thank you. And with that, may the Great Spirit watch over us all. God bless. However you want to say it. I say the Great Spirit because of my native side, but I do believe in the Lord Almighty. So be safe. Spring is here. Summer's coming. And the attacks aren't stopping, as we're seeing.